Joe.
What's up, buddy?
Well, I'm kind of waiting I want to know what the market's going to do, Joe.
Yeah, I don't, I just don't have any friggin' clue at this point.
Me neither.
I mean, I definitely see issues, but I'll just go down a couple of things. One, everybody talking about the dollar this, dollar that, and I saw some data over the weekend. And you look at the central bank reserves of dollars out there, it's like the US is like, massive trillions of dollars. And then you go down the list and it's like, everybody else is like half a trillion or something like that, or 500 billion. I mean, there's nobody even close. So I'm like, how does that get disrupted? And then everybody talks about all these other issues, the Iran Saudi thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to last. And then everybody's talking about GDPs, and I realized that Texas GDP is higher than Russia. So you're like, what the fuck, man? It's like, I just don't see it. Now I do see issues with obviously a couple of little banks tank along the way, whatever that was it part of choke point or was it just fucking ineptitude? I have no idea. But then you look at bank deposits and you realize it was just a blip. It's nothing compared to what's going on. And then of course, everybody talks about the 30-day T-bills versus the other ones. And yeah, people are going in buying those up, but nobody seems to know why, and anybody in the know doesn't seem to be all that concerned.
Yeah.
But yet I see huge problems on the real estate front, that's for sure. But I don't know what causes that to go over the edge. So basically, long story short, I started taking profits.
Good.
Because I'm just like, I'm sort of like, what's the point? It's summer's coming up. I mean, somebody was saying in one of the chats, I'm just going to the sidelines and going to the beach for the summer. And I started thinking, how many times I wake up looking at this shit in the middle of the night and, looking at things and worrying about stuff tanking. I'm just like, I don't play the short game, so I don't know, I'm not doing stuff like that. I'm just pretty much a spot person. Right. Everybody who listens knows what shit I'm in. So, those all seem to have done pretty well. And I think maybe it's just ordinals and DeFi for a while. But, passively doing it, I'm not going to trade it and just take a break. Man, we've had a huge run. I mean, everybody should be up massively this year. If you're not, you're doing something wrong. So it's like, I'm gonna like kind of take all the naysayers perspective and take a bunch of profits, go on vacation, see what happens, man. I don't know.
I like it.
What do you think? What are you thinking? What are you thinking?
I haven't been as aggressive over the last few months as I want to be because I've been so hesitant about what the market's doing. And we, in the US here, we're kind of limited in what we can and can't do from a trading perspective. Like shorting Bitcoin is a difficult thing to do. And, it's just some of those strategies are much more difficult to manage. So I'm up, and I'm like, I'm just tired of the hanging. I think it's a multitude of factors. I think it's, everyone I know and trust in the space that I think is smart and analytical feels like a massive dump in the economy is coming. But it's been like that for a very long time, relative to DeFi time. So that's kind of been hanging over the decisions I make, rather than just making decisions about, what's on the chart or what the project fundamentals are. So that's my bad. Secondarily, we've got, the SEC, Gary and company trying to fucking beat the shit down of DeFi and keep it centralized so they can have control over it when he leaves the SEC. And I think that constant beatdown is on purpose. I mean, I think they want to keep a steady drumbeat of regulatory actions and keep fear up and make people doubt it and make people be concerned about it so that they can, do what they will with it. So I don't know. I think all those things together kind of has me like, what the fuck, man? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll probably take some profits and.
That's a really good point. I kind of glossed over the regulatory stuff, but I did see that a bill for stablecoin regulation was introduced today in the House, and I saw an SEC enforcement action against BitTrax where they're calling everything a security, basically. Algorand, ICP, 4 or 5 other ones. Of course, you got a fight going on between CFTC and SEC. You got Loomis going after Gary Gensler. I mean, shit is starting to sort out, basically. But I don't. I also saw that one of the original Silk Road hackers got sentenced today to a year and a day or whatever. gave up 50,000 BTC, basically.
Yeah.
That Zhang guy up in Gainesville, Georgia. That is all going on, and it makes you feel nervous. But then you look at the other side and you see all the other stuff that's going on. Again, maybe they're just calling a blockchain or something. I don't know, but it's just shit's getting implemented everywhere. And then I also heard some market chatter that that supposedly BlackRock is sitting on some massive position in Bitcoin right now.
Oh, really?
I mean, the market chatter is, it's like, I mean, I don't know how to, just a massive quantity that they've been aggressively either holding or buying from multiple wallets or something. I don't know, but institutionals are in it.
Yeah.
So I don't really feel like, even if it does tank, like a lot of people think, and, in those same people, think it's a V tank, basically a deep V, does that really hurt us? If you don't sell, if you don't panic and sell, you're going to be fine. If you put in stinky bid limit orders, you're going to be really fine. So, it's almost like I don't want to say want it to happen, but it's like, just pull the fucking Band-Aid already, man. It's getting crazy.
Yeah.
So,
well,
anyhow.
Last week, Goldman Gary reopened the dark pools rule, which essentially says that DEXs are regulated, are exchanges that must be regulated by the SEC. Basically that. But they went much further. Of course, Crypto Mom slashed and burned them in her dissent. Like, you people are fucking this up. Literally said, you're asking people to come in and register, and then you serve them when you won't help them register. Right. So, and a lot of the attorneys I follow weighed in on this. One of the interesting thing was they actually specifically mentioned Curve in this reopening of this 600-page fucking document, and mentioned Curve in it, and talked about the fact that if there's no one to take responsibility for the registration and legality of DEX, that then the token holders who are entitled to governance will be required to take care of that. So in other words, basically threatening token holders with legal liability through the SEC if there's no entity or group or team of developers to take responsibility for modifying things to be compliant with the SEC exchange regulations. So, and here's what it comes down to, and this is something Thogard PvP wrote: it's easy to register a crypto company with the SEC. Just literally destroy the entire chain by bribing enough validators to breach consensus and alter immutable code. If you can't afford that, you'll have to shut down. But for everyone else, registering is easy. Come on in. And they literally have, in here talking about the fact that validators will have to do this. They'll have to be forced by the law to implement the code. They talk about the fact that, and then Gabriel Shapiro goes pretty deep into how the new rules don't fit the Howey test, how it's all fucked up, that nothing in the document makes sense. It contradicts itself over and over again. And then talks about the fact that what you and I have said many times, or I have at least, I don't want to put words in your mouth, that, their goal is to keep all the intermediaries and middlemen that they have in regular stock trading and put it into crypto. rather than taking the transparency and capabilities of the blockchain and applying it to the financial system, they don't want their buddies to stop at losing the billions of dollars they make playing the middleman. And so that's what their goal is. And that is, look, everything that the SEC has done relevant to opening up comments on potential regulatory approaches they're going to take has had the end result potentially of all of those things forcing things into the center, all of those things forcing us into middlemen and intermediaries, but with no real, with zero real vision for actually protecting people, which is what they love to claim. So
yeah.
Anyway, it's a bit of a fucking mess. Another day, another SEC fucking play.
Hail Mary, basically. I don't know. I mean, I know they're bringing on 3 more attorneys, but how do they plan to go after like all the individuals that own tokens?
Well, but they don't care. They're hoping to scare people, right? They're hoping people will say, well, maybe I'll be one of the fucking 3 that gets nailed, and so I better get the fuck out of this, right? I mean, that's their goal. Their goal is to use fear and intimidation, and then you introduce a regulatory issue, and then the next day you serve somebody with a notice, and then you introduce a regulatory issue, and the next day you serve somebody else, and you show people getting arrested, sued, whatever. The whole goal is to fucking psychologically tamp down, because you're right, they can't do it. They don't have the resources. If everybody they go after fought them in court, the SEC would be a fucking quagmire of stupid, because they wouldn't have people. They wouldn't have enough people to do it. So
one thing I did notice in some of their language lately, maybe I just didn't notice it before, but they've started now adding, usually it talks about individuals, but now they're going individuals and institutions. So I think they've kind of figured out that a lot of those same middlemen that are trying to hand everything to are also some of the biggest holders of crypto. And, it just makes you wonder, what are these guys smoking down there, man, basically? I just don't, they're, and I was talking to a buddy who was at the Web3 conference in Hong Kong last week. And supposedly it was a huge show, a big success, lots of action.
Yeah, I saw that.
Hong Kong government supposedly all over legalizing crypto, or completely, I think in the new legislation, June 1st. So it's like, we're just going to hand it off, to Hong Kong. I mean, versus having it in New York. I mean, it just doesn't seem like very smart. If your job is to, I guess, protect the U.S. markets or maintain the U.S. financial market, I don't know what the right word is, supremacy, hegemony, I have no idea, then why are you just shoving it all out the door? I mean, It's a blip on the radar to like the size of U.S. currency in circulation. It's a blip on the radar in regards to like U.S. GDP. It's like it should be, encouraged and fostered, and let it run, basically. I mean, I just don't buy it that all these people are getting ripped off. I don't buy it that it's a whole bunch of big Ponzi schemes. I just don't agree. I think there are, but it's not the ones that we know. I'm not saying we know, but it's not the ones that everybody hears about and looks about and buys tokens in. Some people chase the crazy stuff. I mean, everybody gets burned on that occasionally, but go enforce on those groups.
Exactly.
Don't enforce on, like, I saw Algorand was pegged to security in the stuff today or yesterday, and I'm no fan of Algorand, but I mean, is that a security?
Well, somebody said that pre-SEC, Gensler used to speak about how wonderful Algorand was. Like, talked about it being technologically superior and a much better product and blah, 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 blah. Well, now he's gone from Schiller to killer. So well, he might have basically been gunning for a job there with the mooch. Of course. And he didn't get an offer, so he said, fuck it.
Yeah. So I just wonder, I'm glad that they're, I hate to say the Republican politicians, but I'm glad that they're actually kind of really getting sick of his act.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's just not,
somebody,
I don't know.
Congressman Davison today put forth a bill to restructure the SEC and basically take Gary's power away from him.
Good.
Yeah.
It's just not a, I mean, we all know why it was founded, and it was founded by, Whiskey Joe Kennedy, who was probably one of the biggest scammers of all time on Wall Street. And they brought in the guy who knew how to do it to form the SEC because he knew how everybody was breaking the law, including himself. I mean, that's like hiring El Chapo to run the DEA, basically, or something like that. And, I'm not trying to give him more credit, but it's kind of outserved its purpose.
Yep.
To me, it's too much regulation.
Just prosecute the lawbreakers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the existing financial system, there's still pump and dumps. There's still penny stock scams. There are still fake companies being set up. There are still SPACs that are total con jobs, fucking over investors. None of the SEC regulations have ever prevented people getting screwed over. Do your job, prosecute people, go after people. That should be your job as the enforcement agency. Get the people who have screwed people over, get their money back as best you can. And hey, what if you put the fucking financial system on the blockchain? Guess what? Now maybe you actually could stop people who are scamming before there's widespread damage. But here we are.
It's not going to happen though, because that's the that's the angle. Like to your point earlier about the middlemen.
Exactly.
You can't have it on the blockchain and have middlemen still be there.
Yeah, you don't need them.
Yep. No, and you actually know the real prices, and so market makers and there's all those scams in the past where people put in bids and then they match them up with the highest sale price. Or, it's not like they're getting everybody the best price. Right. They're getting the price that gets them the best margin, basically. Yeah. So to me, it just won't, it would be great if it could, but it's just goes against what is being sort of the system that's being maintained. And that doesn't serve the American consumer, again, American Central here, but that doesn't serve the American consumer well. In my mind.
And look, it takes us right back to what I've been maintaining all along on the political front. We have to flip the narrative. The narrative right now is please don't fucking regulate us. Please stop regulating us. Please don't come after us. Please don't hurt us, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is not going to get us anywhere. We need to go on the offensive. We need our members of Congress that support crypto to be on the offensive. They need to be saying the existing financial system is broken. Here's the data. Here's how much intermediaries and middlemen take out of American investor pockets. That kind of data would be absolutely powerful. Like say to people, the average American investor is losing X thousands of dollars every year to middlemen that are no longer necessary because crypto and blockchain solves that problem. They are not needed. Let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of the regulatory. Let's get rid of the bureaucracy. Let's get rid of the people who are costing people money because you don't need it anymore. If we can go on the offensive about the fact that this is a better system for our financial system, this will help protect people better. This will give the SEC and other law enforcement people the ability to actually track and find people that are screwing over people. That to me needs to be our messaging from a regulatory perspective. We need to stop begging and asking not to be regulated or to figure out how we fit into the regulatory scheme that exists today and say, it's time to change the way the financial system functions. I realize that's a long shot, but it's a message that can get across to people. Oh, wait a minute. This system is fucking me over. I'm not getting any advantage from the regulatory system the way it works. And this system could help you avoid the mortgage crisis, could help you avoid all kinds of scams. That to me is a much more powerful message than I love the message of we're driving innovation out of the country and that needs to be part of it. But the more powerful messaging that'll appeal to people and appeal to people that are in Congress is the current system is fucking us over. Let's make it better and safer. This is how you do it.
Well, and also, I mean, the other point, I mean, or you could just kill all regulation and just let it rip. Because, I know sometimes I sort of might say the opposite a lot, but, when you really think about that and you go, how many grandmas are really getting ripped off sitting in their chairs. I mean, they look at magazines and stuff and catalogs and watch,
No, you know who rips
some
them off?
kind of
People calling them with pump and dump schemes on the stock market. That's who's ripping them off.
Yeah, it's not crypto. And then also think about, if you're so concerned about the consumer, why do you let, I mean, I like to bet on stuff too, but why do you let all these gambling apps just run wild where people come in and get indebted? Or why do you, allow all the alcohol, dependencies? I mean, it's basically, if people are trying to control people to extract, or trying to control a little person to extract money from them to finance their own heightened lifestyles, it's not just in the finance space. Right. It's in like all the vice spaces, That's nicotine, alcohol,
lottery tickets,
all those. Yeah, everything. I mean, it's like everybody's trying to suck money out of friggin' grocery stores. Everything's half as big and twice as much now. Right. And, so to me, it's like, maybe this financial regulation to save the consumer makes zero sense at this point.
Maybe it's a lie.
Yeah, maybe it's that they just need to, or maybe they just need to let people lose money.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're not going to lose it there, they're going to lose it somewhere else.
Yep.
Or they're going to get addicted to something else. I think there's this desire for destruction that's in the human psyche. And they're going to push it as a survival instinct or something. And maybe because we're all domesticated instead of running wild. But, they're going to lose it somewhere.
Yep.
So why choke off all the innovation to allegedly save some people that aren't going to get saved anyhow? It's like that line in Breaking Bad where, they were the morality of, I guess, Walt and those guys running the meth labs. And somebody says the line, of course, I'm not encouraging anybody to do that, but, the line is, these people already want to die anyhow.
Yeah.
So let's give them quality product. And, and I'm like, that's true across a whole bunch of sectors.
It's true.
So why are we so focused on this right now when everybody else is doing so many other things that are worse?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Well,
just my 2 cents.
Niblet says the SEC seems to be following the recording industry playbook to fight Napster. Then iTunes and Spotify changed the game from under them. I wonder if the same will play in finance. I hope so, dude. I really hope so. Shizzy said,
why do you think? Oh, good. Why do you think? That's a good point. And I'm just because I remember Kaza and Napster and whatever the other one was. And then, like you said, Spotify and everything. What was the big difference? Was it digital rights management, or how did it, or was it because it was centralized?
And it was the enforcement, right? The recording industry started actually suing parents of kids that were downloading shit. So that made shit happen. And then they went after the software makers, people that were making Napster, and those things had centralized qualities to them to connect to P2P feeds. So they went after those, and they were just aggressively prosecuting people stealing music, right? And it left an opening for iTunes and Spotify, people that would let you subscribe to music or download music for $1.99 at the time, I guess. That was a good opening when the pressure was coming in. It made an opening for these subscription or download models. So
what's the analog in crypto, I guess, is my point. So
I think what he's saying is they're going hard after it, trying to keep the control they had, because that's what the RI wanted. They wanted to keep things the way they were. People buying CDs, people buying albums, nobody downloading anything. Or if they were, some method, but they didn't know what their method was yet. They didn't have a plan. And so the idea was, we'll just keep enforcing, and then everybody will come back to the way we've always done things, right? And what I think Niblet's point is that what happened is that the innovation came from under them, and they had no choice because they weren't stopping all of the illegal downloads. And at the same time, there were these opportunities that would make them money. And so I think probably, I'm putting words in Niblet's mouth, what he's saying is maybe the innovation will come up from under them and be able to circumvent this regulatory pressure. I don't know. But the RIA didn't have the pressure they were threatening people with criminal charges, but I don't think anything ever came from that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Shizzy said Gary Gensler is a Bitcoin maxi. He probably has loads of Bitcoin. He wants us to exit crypto and go into Bitcoin only. Yeah, possible. And I think he wants to be the middleman. Sean
he wants to buy the dip.
Yeah. Sean says BlackRock is offering clients spot Bitcoin exposure via partnership with Coinbase. So the level of activity can be seen directly via the Coinbase data. Its objective is to compete with GBTC. That's interesting. I hadn't heard anything about it. That's really
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean. Anything that drives it. Niblet says grannies are getting ripped off by the Ontario Teachers Pension Fund, getting looted by SBFs of the world. Yeah, definitely. Chuck says exchanges and centralized projects are Napster. Yeah, I like that analogy. That makes sense.
Yeah.
The crypto analog is the same enforcement and bullying to maintain a Byzantine structure of rent-seeking middleman. Yeah, you're right. That definitely, yeah, that your analogy back to the RIA makes sense, is that they wanted to maintain the system they had. Chuck said once they killed Napster, they went after people identified by their IP address and rotted out by their ISPs. With the non-crypto wallets, that becomes problematic if you get rid of the centralized bits. Yeah, if there's no way to trace back the wallets to a centralized entity because you registered KYC, that's for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Where to go? Let me open up my things here. Where to go? I just had it open. Here we go. New crypto native bank. It looks like it's kind of one of those digital banks, crypto native banking experience. So fiat on ramp, off ramp. And I'm assuming they're doing kind of cool financial management. It's called harbor.fi, full reserve fiat account though. So completely backed. Don't have to worry about a run on it. Secure crypto wallets, seamless GBP. So USDC swaps. So is this Europe only, this bank? I don't know.
HarborFi, HARBOUR or OR?
OUR. That's what the Brits do for Harbor, right?
Yeah, I think so. Somebody does it that way.
Safety and transparency, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, well, you did see that thing that Apple did a deal with Goldman Sachs where they're doing bank accounts now and paying 4.15% interest, I think.
I did not see that. That's cool.
I saw that today somewhere.
Project Greenfield, that project we interviewed that guy, the member of the team about, which is the data storage mechanism on BNB Smart Chain, is that what we're called now? BNB Chain is live on testnet. So they're looking for people to test, but they've also open sourced all the code. So this entire storage capability and mechanism is available for people to try out and see if they like what they're doing and they want to build products on top of it. But we thought, you and I were both pretty impressed with what those guys were building. So
yeah, when we talked to we had Dylan on the show and one of the developers there. Yeah, and super impressed. And then when we talked to Crypto Kim or Alex from BNB East Denver, he kind of laid out the scope of it even further. It's going to be an impressive play.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if there's potentially airdrops coming or anything like that, but you might want to mess around in there just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, possibly. Store, exchange, and own data to create a new data economy with the BNB chain ecosystem. That's really interesting. Oh, real quick, while we're on it, speaking of airdrops, if you guys haven't checked out the new airdrops channel on the Mission DeFi Telegram, get in there. It's pretty cool. I mentioned last week that no, I can't remember his name on Twitter, but his name on
EHR 7441
on Telegram has begun sharing the wisdom of his airdrop strategies, and we encourage everyone to also share theirs. Everyone has. It's created an engaging conversation around the best methods and possibilities for airdrops. So if you're into playing the airdrop game, you want to play that free money game, take a look over there. Of course, it's not financial advice. Nobody is giving financial advice here because there are tax ramifications, et cetera, et cetera. And there are risks with some of these projects, so you got to be careful. But he's giving exact step-by-step processes for going after some of these airdrops, and he said he's going to continue to share those with us. So excited to have a new member. Well, he's a longtime listener, a new member of the community, providing some really good tips and tricks there.
Yeah, I read through that thread on yesterday morning, I think, and lots of good intel on that one. I mean, between ZK Sync and Starknet, and I think we talked about SUI a little bit. I think somebody might even confirm that there's not going to be. Well, maybe that's SEI. I don't know, but lots of good stuff to read, and then some good advice on the civil farming and things like that too.
Yeah.
And one thing I didn't think about was that it is smart to kind of, if you are going to do that with multiple wallets, to seed new wallets from a centralized exchange and don't interact between the wallets, obviously. Sure. And I know a lot of the projects don't like that, but hard cheese. We're here for the listeners. So that was really, really good intel. So read it, everyone.
Yeah, read it. Niblet says Apple Banking will do to retail finance what they did to music with iTunes. I think they have the potential. It's going to be really interesting to see. I got to tell you, Apple Pay is a fantastic tool. I rarely pull out my credit cards or debit cards anymore. I use just Apple Pay to pay. Then I immediately get a record of the transaction on my phone, right? So I don't have to log into my bank account to check it. I can just see it all there. They have the potential. They definitely have the potential from a financial perspective. I didn't know this, but remember EOS?
Yeah.
Now has
the Draper one, right?
Now has EOS EVM to allow interoperability between Ethereum and EOS. And if you remember, there was like billions of dollars raised for that project. And the original founders of it were fucking it up and not getting anything done. And I think last year the community sued to take back over control of governance of EOS. I never heard what came out of that after the fact, but I'm going to check it out because EOS has, somebody pointed this out in a tweet the other day. My apologies to whomever did, and I didn't save the tweet. They have a settlement with the SEC.
That's right, because was that the rolling raise? Was that the rolling $4 billion? Yeah.
So they have a shit ton of money. They have a high speed staking based chain. They have a lot of money, and they have an SEC settlement. Yeah. So that makes them really interesting, right?
I think so.
And what's the chain that is like the sub chain on EOS that all the NFT and gaming shit's on, that Uplift was on? Corey, what the hell is that chain?
Oh, Wax.
Wax is an EOS based chain, right? So this could be really interesting play over here, right? If the key to me is if the governance and control of what's getting built has gotten back into the community's hands, it's not still being run by the guys who were, lining their pockets. So I want to check it out again. I want to see what's going on over there. But having interoperability with Ethereum puts them in a really interesting spot, along with having a settlement with the SEC.
Yeah, they're like $1.21, a market cap of 1.3 billion right now. Everything looks like it's out. Oh no, total supply is actually infinity of tokens, but they've got about 1.1 billion out. So we might want to think that part through a little bit. They got 71 million in TVL and a 24-hour trading volume of 144 million. Yeah, I think it's definitely worth taking a look at to see where they go, because let's look at like an all-time chart real quick. Yeah, they had a nice run up in May, or May of 21 with everyone else. It went to like, what was that? Looks like about back up into like the $15 range, 14. All-time high about 22 back in 2018.
$10.
Yeah, I mean, if they could get the volume, the users, the apps and everything going. I mean, plus, like you said, with the EVM compatibility piece, I mean, there's just a lot of chains out there, obviously. We all know that already, but why not?
Yeah.
I mean, if they're sitting on a hoard of money right now,
Exactly.
they could buy protocols basically. I don't know. I've been watching. Yeah, I've been looking at a lot of different chains lately, and first of all, there's a shitload, obviously, and I started wondering, wow, how can all these survive? And I guess the answer is they can't. But how does it end? Is it consolidation? I mean, there's a lot of M&A play there. I don't even know if that makes sense. Purchase of assets kind of stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't look like DeFi Llama tracks EOS. I can't find them in their database.
Really?
Yeah, it's really
weird. Is weird. I mean, it looks like. I
wonder if does DeFi Llama track wax? No.
I thought I saw wax on years ago. I mean, when we were talking about wax a lot back with Cawley and his company when they came on. Let's see what we got here. I mean, it's been around a long time. I mean, it's back in the I remember that IPO or ICO when I was rolling around and I was like, what the hell? It was like 4 billion or something.
Yeah.
Or it was billions.
Yeah, and I was like, shit ton of money then in DeFi.
Yeah, I mean now it'll buy you a Starbucks coffee or whatever.
Oh, there they are. EOS is on here. EOS is on here. So let's see what we got. Shizzy said 300 chains and 0 dApps running on them. Niblet said EOS, hearing that name is like seeing acid wash jeans and shoulder pads. So 123 million in TVL, 71 million of that is locked on EOS Rex, which is a lending platform. DeFi Box is next, which is a DEX at 34.6 million and Paycash at 5.7 million. Something called DeFi's Network has 3.5 million. Whale X, P Network, and Vigor. Well, the ones over $1 million: P Network, Whale, DeFi's Network, Paycash, DeFi Box, EOS Rex.
What number are they on the list at DeFi
20,
Llama?
20.
Number 20. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, I mean, I guess they could make it, but it also seems kind of like not a ghost chain. That's not the right word, but I just think that, I mean, with all the new stuff coming out, I mean, does it eventually become like where, these first movers all just fade into oblivion because the tech is so much better now?
Well, I mean, but then you look,
BTC and Ethereum.
Ethereum and BTC are still doing fine. Secondary layers on both of those are providing the performance enhancement. EOS was already a fast chain. I mean, remember the transactions on Wax? Those were fucking, that was like lightning speed. I have no idea the level of centralization, decentralization. I mean, I know the governance was centralized in the few people that were running the ICO, but I mean, look, I agree with your thesis here, right? There's too many fucking chains. We talk about that all the time, but having Ethereum interoperability and having an SEC regulatory settlement, to me, and having performance and speed and potentially the community now reowning the protocol, to me, it's worth a 30-minute investment.
Well, hey, there is something interesting there now with the EVM compatibility. If we're going to talk about 300 chains consolidating down to whatever the market deems is the appropriate number, then a lot of those dApps and protocols can now go to EOS.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So, maybe maybe it could pursue a strategy, of, mass acquisition, so to speak, of or mass migration. Because remember, this might make sense now, because I remember back when we were all doing the encryption stuff, and I was given a letter from Bancor, which was basically, going for listings. And you and I were talking about, this is early 2018. And it looked like and I don't know, actually, I've never even asked, I should have asked them that when we were at East Denver. But, it looked like they were doing like a mass, because Draper was on both boards. It looked like they were doing a mass, like kind of aggregation of different protocols to migrate them to EOS. Right. Was sort of my read. It didn't happen. But that was probably a strategy they were thinking about. So maybe that's a strategy that they're talking about right now, to as chains wither on the vine for whatever reason, all the EVM chains, then boom, you could pull them in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that if you base everything on the primary token of the chain instead of launching 4 million tokens, if you have a model where projects that launch are actually using EOS itself. Oh, Sean's killing my glory. He said EOS settled with the SEC for fundraising only. They can still go after them for other matters. Well, that's a first vector of attack. I'm glad's off the table, but I still want to check it out. Now, poor Wax,
and that's the big one. That's the big one too. Because that's what it doesn't have to be a security to raise like it's a security. Yeah. And that's what they really focus on is the raising part. So you're right. That is the primary vector of attack. Yep. But, they could F up, as Sean points, in a multitude of other ways.
Yeah. It's interesting. Looking at Wax now, only 873,000 total value locked on the whole chain. But, if you remember how many frigging users were on there. I think the problem was just the value of the NFTs on there. That was driven mainly NFTs and gaming was driving them. But I just think the value of the NFTs on that chain were just not there. So there wasn't a ton of actual DeFi happening. What's really interesting is this Alcor exchange. I remember when Uplift was doing those tokens they were doing, they did them and they were doing the yield farm. The swap they were using was Alcor exchange. And that was just some dude that built this thing up out of nowhere. Well, now it's got, it's the number one DEX on the network, but that's only 360,000. But what's interesting is they had so many users, and Wax had kind of like the first on-chain example of account abstraction in place, which Ethereum is now implementing and Phantom is now implementing, where users can log in with an email address. They didn't need, to understand all of the seed phrases and everything else. I think there was complexity in the function of the wallet and understanding. The biggest problem I had with, and this may be the same for EOS, the biggest problem I had with Wax was this whole fucking thing of like staking to get your gas fees paid. There was like this weird working system to make it work. And I don't know if the EOS operates the same way or not. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, don't they do a lot? Who was all, one of our listeners did a lot with Wax too. Was it Max Life? Wasn't he doing stuff?
Yeah, Max, that's how we met him. I think we met him through Uplift and all of that. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
No, because, and I remember we talked to Corey and, the metaverse plays over there that were going on. I mean, unfortunately, both those markets, NFTs and MetaVi, are kind of, in the trough right now. So, it doesn't mean it's there forever. Yeah. It just means, because those NFTs will come back. Yeah. They always do. So, that could have a future too, in a lot of ways. Yes.
Niblet says 100 years ago, there were about 2,000 car companies in the US. Now there are 4. So by analogy, 99.8% of those chains won't make it. I think that's a wrap.
That's right.
I think that's a great way to look at it. But in the meantime, some of them are going to make some money. So everybody knows I'm a big supporter of what Coinbase has been doing from on the regulatory front, and have been really pleased with a lot of the things they do. Their interface looks great, but this short seller, Jim Chanos, came out and just last week and just went scathing on Coinbase, man. And the biggest thing there is that he maintains that they're basically fucking over their users. I was excited about the no fee trading, the monthly subscription thing. It turns out it doesn't work on the advance. It only works on that no fee thing only happens for their silly retail thing where they take margin on the fucking prices they give you. And it's not real trading. It's not like API based trading. You can't do anything automated there. Well, he claims to have run the numbers and says it essentially they're charging users 5.2% on their assets in the forms of commissions and fees in the fourth quarter of last year, on an annualized rate. So, and he's shorting the hell out of them. So they posted a net loss of 2.6 billion last year. Look, at the end of the day, if he drives this price down, I'll be cool to pick some up on a discount because I know there'll be another run up in the next bull market. So,
who else will be cool to pick it up? Goldman Sachs.
You're right. You've maintained that along.
Yeah, no, I always bring up Wood Capital, and this is a perfect analog to that. With what they did there. I mean, look, I just, have a problem. I don't want to say I have a problem, but it's like these short sellers, I don't get how they can, legally, I'm not saying he's doing anything wrong. I'm just saying how you go take a short and then you trash the shit out of the stock in public forums.
How is that not manipulation?
Yeah, I don't get it. So, and I guess he made the Enron call as his claim to fame. Well, shit, there's fucking 40,000 people that made the Enron call. It's like I just hate it when people say stuff like that because it just seems so. How many years
ago was that? Was that his last fucking hurrah?
Wasn't that like 99, 2000, 2001, somewhere around there?
Yeah, I think so.
I remember talking. What I was thinking about with that too was that back to the BTC and who's holding BTC right now was during that Enron crisis. They drove up energy prices. The biggest holder of oil in the U.S. was J.P. Morgan. They had refineries filled with oil everywhere up and down the East Coast. Everywhere they could store it, they were storing it. They were the biggest holder. And then when prices soared, they liquidated. Yeah. So I kind of, the analog I'm getting to is that I kind of have a feeling that's what people are doing in BTC right now. Those big institutional, because nobody sees it.
Yeah.
It's hidden. Yeah. It's like those things are so opaque that you don't know who's doing what and in what markets they're doing it because they've got funds all over the world buying and selling. This is crypto. You just need wallets basically. Yeah. And, who's to say they don't have 1 million wallets with, one or two, or billions in all of them. So again, back to Coinbase, I just don't like I'm not saying Chanos is wrong, but it just seems like it's kind of like becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, just like what the Hindenburg guys did a few months ago to that Indian company. Now, of course, everything goes haywire when the stock price drops and all of a sudden they're insolvent.
Yeah.
But, would they have been if that information didn't get pushed out all over the place?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So 2001 was Enron.
Okay. I remember when I was looking at Enron, I was talking to some people from some, big groups and, trying to set meetings up with them. And they were like, no, you probably just want to stay away from them. I don't know anything in particular, but there's a lot of market chatter that there's something weird going on there. And I was like, okay, thanks. Nobody would say it, but, the whole market kind of knew that, I think.
Yep.
But Coinbase, what's their, I finally did some off ramping through them and, dude, I gotta say, man, I love being able to just go from I haven't done it in a while. Obviously you guys all know this probably, but that you could just go from, you could pick the chain it's coming from now. I remember back in 21, we were always having to go from all the chains back to Ethereum and Ethereum over to there. The other thing I like too is you can send in like USDC from Polygon and, basically it's a penny or two instead of $18. And then it goes right into your USDC account at Coinbase. And then you can take it to dollars for nothing.
Exactly.
And then you can off ramp from there. If you want it instantly in your account, you pay $10.
Yeah.
And which I was like, I don't remember that shit, but I did it on Sunday and boom, it was in my account on Sunday.
Yeah, it's amazing.
In like a second. So to me, these guys are, for the American players or crypto people, that's, trade everywhere else basically. But, it's not a bad play. No. It's got legs.
We're going to start feeling the pressure. Like as more people kind of got scared about the other exchanges, they're going to move into there, but they're going to see what the ultimate fees are going to be like for that fucking exchange. And they're going to have to get competitive, right? They're just charging too fucking much. You shouldn't be paying 1% on a trade. It's just,
I don't trade there at all.
No, me neither.
I'm everywhere else. And then I just, now I'm going back through there, but even the the tweet you put out about the Coinbase debit card. I mean, it looks pretty solid to me.
Yeah. Look, you earn some ETH every time you use it, or Bitcoin, whatever you choose. So, or USDC.
I mean, I'm just I like to kind of do it like if I'm using cards, I like to do it out of the banks just because it's just easier to keep organized for me.
Sure.
If I'm like running debits out of Coinbase, of course, who's to say who's looking at all those to see because, I bet everybody's paranoid people are spending crypto without declaring it or something. So that does worry me a little bit, but.
Well, I think they envision themselves as an alternative bank, right?
Yeah.
They'll make money on these things. They're going to make money on staking and lending. They're going to make money on debit card fees. They're going to make money. And then I think also, this whole thing with Base, their layer 2, I think is going to be kind of their ultimate longer term play anyway, right? I think they realize that sustainably they can't continue to try to live on trading, so they have to trading on the centralized exchange. So they're going to move hardcore into the DEX life. So Nibble says, how does a DEX lose that kind of money? How are their costs that much higher than revenues? Well, I think they've been building out a shit ton of infrastructure. They've hired a ton of developers for Base. They paid out a shit ton in severance to people that took them up on their offer of, leave if you want to talk about politics in the workplace. So I think they've had a lot of things all at once, but I have no idea. I haven't looked at their financials.
It just must be not a lot of revenue still. Yeah.
I want to get to two more things before we wrap up, because I got 1 o'clock cold.
Oh yeah, cool.
DeFi Llama, 2 new dashboards. For those of you that are into playing the NFT game, they now have NFT collections dashboard. It's at DeFiLlama.com/NFTs. We'll show you volumes, moves in prices, 1-day volume, 7-day volume, total supply, and how many NFTs are on sale. And you can kind of see which ones are trending up or down in price in their floor price. So cool little quick dashboard just to kind of, if you want to play the NFT game, it's an interesting place to go. They also launched a governance dashboard. It lets you see what protocols are the most active with their governance, how many proposals are active, how many have closed. Bent Finance has in the last 30 days done 40 successful proposals, 205 proposals in all time. Aave Balancer, Aave Gachi, Frax, PancakeSwap, Conic, and Nouns DAO. But just interesting to see. And then, gives you insights into, is there a lot of activity going on into something I'm invested in? I better go check it out. Right.
Well, also it shows if they're really running it like a DAO.
Yeah.
And or does it just have DAO in the name?
Yeah. And then you can click on one and see their total proposals, successful proposals, total votes that have come in, how many people are following it. And then you can see the actual proposals with links back to it. So instead of having to go through and search the Discord or find whatever you're doing, if there's a project you like, they have 300 projects listed. If there's a project you like that's on this list, it's a great way to monitor what's going on with you can log in and see if they're doing anything. So
I'm so glad that DeFi Llama got their little spat sorted out from a couple of weeks ago.
Me too.
I mean, they just keep, as you say a lot, and we all see it too, but they just keep cranking out new product constantly that helps all of us. And, I guess what I like most is there's, all those other dashboard groups that have popped up in the last year, but these guys aren't resting on laurels. They just keep going and going and going, man. And so
keep cranking it out.
Yeah. So I love it.
Sean said, I don't really see Coinbase as a SEX. It's mostly for onboarding and cashing out. The trading fees and spread make it an awful venue for actual traders. Onboarding is down bigly, hence revenue. Makes sense. Chuck says,
there you go.
Coinbase is the Robinhood of crypto, a gamified mobile UI for retail ding-dongs who don't know they are trading in someone's dark pool with stupid high fees. That's a really good point. Sean said, the spread is more criminal than the fees. Yeah. When you look at these numbers, it'll be in the show notes. When you look at the numbers that this short seller posted up, it's kind of disturbing, actually. Feels almost like a bit of a scam. Yeah. But the onboarding and offboarding is good. So
they're functioning as a market maker, basically. And so, they're basically maximizing those spreads.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not like, I remember when you couldn't get in between those spreads in equities until like maybe Daytech popped up or something like that. All the ones that turned into like Ameritrade and everything, where you could actually execute trades inside the spread. Before that, you just had to basically put in a buy order.
Yeah.
And then somebody said, oh, we got someone who wants to buy 10 shares. All right, well, where's the highest price? Instead of like, where's the lowest price?
Exactly.
But that's the nature of that beast. So I'm excited when base comes. We'll see what they've learned at that point.
Yeah, I think there's some real. I'm looking at this governance dashboard again. I think there's some really interesting things to learn from this. Right, you want to find the ones that are actually working to move to community governance and decentralization, et cetera. This is really interesting. I'm glad to see it. So, Niblet says a lot of people don't understand the difference between fees and spreads, so it's easy for exchanges to scam them. Yeah, the spreads is the ultimate scam.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Joe, I got to drop. I got about 30 seconds.
Let's go, buddy. Good show, man. Good show.
Everybody join us at t.me/mission DeFi, t.me/mission DeFi. Sean has been posting, even while he's out doing other things, quite a bit about what he sees. Shizzy and has been debating him on the topic, as well as a lot of other people are providing a lot of guidance and insights. Join the new airdrops channel. Lots of cool shit in there. I really want to take the time soon to start farming some more of these and get a lot more airdrops in my pocket. So I'm gonna take a look at the tactics and techniques there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you everybody for listening and watching. Thank you, Niblets, Sean, Chuck, Shizzy. I think that was the gang today. Appreciate you guys commenting and interacting with us and making and adding value to the show. Please, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you rate and review us and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, click the little bell so you get alerted about new episodes. And please make sure you smash that thumbs up. Hope everyone has a great day. Joe, have a great day.
You too, buddy. Good luck on the next stuff, and we'll see everybody tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.